Hi, and welcome to TV My Husband Hates. I'm Kat Sims.
And I'm Reagan Kempton.
And we are reality TV addicts?
Addicts, aficionados?
Ooh, I like that. Experts.
Experts.
Basically, we know our shit when it comes to reality TV.
100%.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to a very special reunion minisode. This time we are discussing Vanderpump Rules, and it has been quite a season.
It's been quite a season. It was quite a reunion. I'm so glad it was divided into 3 parts because I don't think I could have sat through 3 hours of the shouting.
I did. I had to sit through 3 hours of the shouting last night because I realized when you texted me and went, so we're going to do Vanderpump Rules reunion tomorrow. I was like, yeah. Fuck, I haven't watched any of it. And I was also really hungover. So I was like, I'm really hungover. I just want to go to bed at 9. But I thought, no, what I'll do is I'll drink 17 Coke Zeros and just watch the whole thing in one sitting, which I did. I already had a headache, so I feel like it was fine.
Yeah.
But it was a lot. It was emotionally quite draining.
It was emotionally a lot. And I wonder how much being on quarantine kind of fueled all this as well, because obviously they've all been in their houses for a long period of time. A lot of them took the time to watch the show. Jax didn't, which we'll get into later on. But I wonder if watching it and then feeling all the emotions again and then sitting down for the reunion really made it the fiery reunion that we saw.
It really was fiery. And I mean, everybody got really mad at some point. I don't think there was anybody that didn't. We had a lot of tears. I don't think there was anybody that didn't really lose their shit. Apart from Katie was very quiet this reunion, I felt.
Yeah.
She seemed, I don't know whether it's growth or whether the virtual reunion just didn't work for her that much, but she seemed super chill and happy to just sit back and not really say anything.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, Lisa getting upset, because we usually don't see Lisa get super emotional, but she had some choice words for Danica and kind of Danica's after show antics.
Yeah, and I think as well we saw quite a lot. I think what we saw as well was a lot of love in the room, because we did see people really getting emotional on other people's behalf. You know, we saw people getting emotional for Dana when she talked about her mum, for James when he talked about his recovery. So while there was a lot of shouting, it also felt like there is a family there and there is a love there. And we're not, this is what, season 8?
Yeah.
So, they've been doing this for a while. I mean, obviously, it's not going to look the same next season.
No, and I think we should put a caveat to all this. This reunion was obviously filmed before a lot of the stuff has come out about past racist behavior, which now Bravo has put a kibosh on and nixed these people from their lineup. So it'll be a very different Vanderpump Rules next season. We won't see Stassi and Beau's wedding, which is interesting.
Oh man, I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah,
so
we won't see any of that. So it'll be a different show, next season, which could be better. I mean, maybe it is time to make a real change to this lineup and a change to kind of the shows in general.
Well, I think we can trust in Bravo as well, right? They've always been really good at putting characters together and personalities together that make great television. If you're into reality TV,
which you are, because you're listening to this.
Yeah. So I don't doubt that they will pull it out of the bag in terms of entertainment value and still creating great TV. But yeah, I thought it was very interesting watching this, knowing that this was before George Floyd and before the real protests kicked off.
Yeah.
Because obviously at this point, when this reunion had been filmed, nothing about Sheena or Kristen had come out, but of course the racist tweets from Max and Brett had come out. And
Right.
Interestingly, they weren't being fired at that point. They were just getting a quick rap on the knuckles and don't do that again. And I thought it was really interesting to see how pre-George Floyd, we were much more accepting, forgiving of racism because it was ages ago, whatever. But now I think it goes to show there has been a significant shift in what we're deeming acceptable.
Absolutely. I feel there's a zero tolerance policy now. And, we see it with Pete from Below Deck, which we chatted about in the main episode, did something and he's gone and the show's being re-edited. So Bravo is definitely has now, I would assume, a zero tolerance policy for racist behavior. And so it'll be different. And I think you're right. It is really interesting to see Lisa was very willing to just be like, they've grown, they've moved on, they don't do this anymore, pre all of this stuff. It'd be interesting to see kind of what she has to say about, because Bravo made the decision to fire them, not Lisa. And it'd be interesting to see kind of her take on that. We'll have to do some deep dive. Maybe that's a future blog post.
Yeah, we could
on the
definitely
website.
look into that. But while we're talking about Max, let's kick off with Max and Dana and that whole thing going on. Because there were some pretty big bombshells.
Pretty big bombshells, and the fact that they dated after filming. They got back together and tried to give it another go.
Again, didn't they? Yeah.
They did. Where should we begin?
Well, I think interestingly, what I discovered, obviously I started to learn it as the season went on, but at the beginning of the season, I really liked Max. Like, he seemed to be kind of a genuine guy. And when he turned Dana down, I felt like that was done out of a place of self-respect and, like, you know, she didn't give him the trust that he felt he deserved. And so, you know what? She doesn't get a second chance. I mean, harsh, but respectable. Yeah. Turns out it wasn't anything to do with that. He just wanted to fuck somebody else. I didn't know that at the time. So I think, interestingly, this reunion made it very clear quite what a fuckboy Max is.
Absolutely. And I think we hear from everybody on how big of a fuckboy he is. I mean, Danica even talked about friends outside of the restaurant industry that he screwed and never called again. There just seemed to be a montage of women in a fairly short period of time, which, no judgment, but I will say, if that's what you want to do, then you don't have these fucking bullshit exclusivity talks with a girl.
Listen, his exact words were, I didn't mean it like we were exclusive, even though he actually said the words, let's be exclusive. Like, the guy is just, he just doesn't care. He'll just say anything to get himself either into bed or out of bed, whatever it takes, whatever he wants to do. But the real shocking bombshell news was that, of course, he's also been stopping Kristen.
Is there anyone she will not have sex with?
Listen, I don't think so.
I don't mean to slut shame.
I don't think so.
But I think James actually made a really good point. Like, you are saying you are Dana's friend. While they were talking, you slept with him. You knew how much she liked him. Didn't matter to you. You decided to do him anyways. The same way she, had sex with Jax while him and Stassi were together. Like, it's just gross, man. Like, I lost a lot of respect for Kristen throughout this reunion. There wasn't a lot of respect there, but I don't know if she's just lost and doesn't know who she is, and so she continually makes bad choices. But she's also closer to our age than the rest of the staff is.
So I think you nailed it. I think she's completely lost. I think she makes bad choices. I don't think she knows who she is. I think she's incredibly needy and very, very lonely. And I think that she values herself on how men feel about her. And I think that's absolutely her problem. Yeah. If she sleeps with people, then that's how she gets value for herself, which is a sad, sad state of affairs. And I hope that changes. That being said, she's shady as fuck with Dana, because as Dana says, you and I talked about Max for hours and hours, and you never mentioned that you'd slept with him twice. Don't say that's not lying. That's shady, shady shit. You don't do that.
No. And honestly, she's an asshole. Like, the whole time when, like, James is talking about, like, his sobriety and whatever, she's essentially calling bullshit on the whole thing. She's just a real dick to a lot of people during this reunion.
And to be honest, I don't care how many people she sleeps with. Sleep with a new guy every fucking day. But if you're going to sleep with your friends' guys or your friends' exes and things like that, then at least be fucking honest about it. Don't just... Don't not say anything. Go, well, I didn't lie about it. I mean, is it that? Just stop being a dick, Kristen. Like, you're the fucking common denominator in all this shit. Like, the girls don't like you. James doesn't like you. Dana doesn't like you. You are the common denominator. Look at your fucking self and sort yourself out. You are nearly 40 fucking years old.
Yeah, you need to make a serious life change. And I hope she has. I hope this new boyfriend and her are great together and respectful of each other and all that. But I don't think that happens if you don't do the work.
No, and I think she's not in a position to have a healthy relationship until she's done that. She's always going to fuck it up and screw it up because essentially as soon as any relationship mellows into beyond the honeymoon phase, she starts to question her value because nobody's ripping her pants off every 5 minutes. So then she goes to somebody else who is going to rip her pants off so she feels good about herself again. So until she sorts that out, she's just going to be on this perpetual cycle of fucking people over. And it's not good for anybody. And I do not blame anybody for cutting ties with her right now.
No. And I mean, I think especially if you think about Kristen and Stassi's friendship and what it has gone through and what Stassi has forgiven from her. And like, I don't blame Stassi in the least for just being like, I am so done. Like, I can't do this anymore. It's too emotionally draining. It's just, it's not a friendship. I think any girl who knowingly sleeps with their girlfriend's dudes is not a girl's girl. And until you become a girl's girl, you're not going to have meaningful, deep relationships with other girls because A, they're always going to wonder whether or not you're fucking their dude. And B, like, you don't care enough. You don't care enough about the friendship.
No, it's just not how it was. I mean, to this day, I'm shocked that Stassi forgave Kristen in the way that she did. I mean, I get that you can only really be pissed off with somebody to a certain extent, you know, and Jax was being a dick and, you know, it was just too much and she just drew a line under it. And I'm sure that the fact that they were all on a TV show together, you know, played a part as well. But it still shocks me that she forgot. It's never happened to me. I've got to be honest. I've never had a girlfriend sleep with a boyfriend of mine. But I would imagine it would take, I can't imagine I'd just be like, okay, you know what, we're fine. Like, I think maybe the damage was done, and maybe it was just that friendship was never going to recover, really, even though they tried to.
No, I absolutely think you're correct. It's just, yeah.
It's dark shit.
Yeah.
So Max and Dana are no more. Tried it again, didn't quite work out. Kristen drops her bombshell, and then Dana and Brett.
This is another dude, like, so disrespectful to pretty much every woman that they have interactions with. Like, I don't even know what to say about him. Like,
no, he's really despicable. He's one of those really insidious people because he comes across the whole time as like, I'm just so woke and I'm so enlightened and I only green veg harvested by, ethical unicorns in Southeast Asia. And you just think, oh, you're such a twat. And every time, when they did that like recap of what everybody's been up to in quarantine, you've got like Tom and Katie singing things and just doing fucking crunches. I'm like, oh, just
stop with like
bad self. Like,
stop trying to be a feminist, like a misogynist in feminist clothing. I think that's what we've called him previously. I love that, like, when he was going off the rails about Sheena, Danica stands up to him and is like, no, you're an asshole. Like, you say one thing to her face, you talk shit about her behind her back. That's an asshole. You're not a nice guy.
Yeah, and when they talked about the music video thing as well, and he was like, well, maybe violated was a bit dramatic. It's like, you don't fuck around with that word.
No!
Like, you don't fuck around with the word violated. It's very loaded. It's very accusatory. And if you're going to use it, you better fucking well make damn sure that you felt violated. Because if you didn't and you're just making somebody look bad, it's not fucking okay.
It's definitely not okay. It's so gross. I don't like the way he was talking, like, told other people that he could have totally had sex with her if he wanted to. Like, it's just gross,
and
dude. Nobody wants to hear that.
Like, are we in fucking high school?
Yeah.
He is I think he's like up there with Ashton from Below Deck for me. Like, he is gross, but he's almost worse than Ashton because at least Ashton was just a misogynist in misogynist clothing. This guy's faking it. Do you know what I mean? He's like pretending to be something and then being this awful, awful person. And I can't bear him. Like, he makes my skin crawl. And he's the fittest ugly guy I've ever met. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's obviously superficially beautiful, but I've never been so physically repulsed by somebody so beautiful because of their personality.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, not even Max. Like, if you put the two of them together, I would way prefer to have a conversation with Max, because at least Max pseudo owns it, or he's just that emotionally unavailable dude. He's not mean. He doesn't go around talking shit about Dana. He doesn't go around talking shit about any of these women. Whereas Brett tries to play like, oh, like we can be friends, and I'm totally talking shit about you to everybody else. Like, he's a snake.
He's a bitch. But the thing with Max as well, Max will just meet the right girl. Like, Max will just meet the right girl that he just falls head over heels in love with, and they'll get married and have a great family, and he'll be a great guy. Like, I think that's where I see his trajectory going. In the meantime, he'll just fuck as many women as he wants. Fine, knock yourself out. But Brett's never going to be that person. Like, he's never going to. Because he thinks of himself so highly. He's so much better than everybody else. He's so patronizing and condescending that there's nobody in the world that he's ever going to really deem good enough to be with him. And that's what he does with Sheena. He just puts her down all the time because he just thinks that he's better than her. And it makes me sick.
Absolutely. And I'm not a huge Sheena fan, but like, nobody deserves that. Like, nobody deserves to be treated as a friend sometimes and kind of like lured onto their YouTube channel just to like talk shit in front of millions of people about her. Like, he has just done so many gross, despicable things. It's heinous.
It is. It's gross. I mean, the newbies in general, let's wrap them up. Like, Danica is going to get a bollocking from Lisa. We don't know whether she'll be there. I mean, Lisa's rapidly losing stuff, so maybe she'll hold on to Danica because at least she hasn't been racist as far as we know. But Charlie, let's have a quick chat about Charlie. I mean, let's make it quick though, because she's so vapid.
She's so vapid. She's fucking rude. And when the minute she was like, I must quit like 6 times, part of me's like, I wish you had.
Me too.
Because you added nothing to the show whatsoever. Like, not even a comedic relief or, oh, that girl has never eaten pasta. Like, all of it was dull. All of it sucked. You shouldn't have been on the show.
No. And while I struggle with Jax myself, she just needs to recognize that actually she's just not very good at being on the TV show. Like, it isn't, like, that's the thing. Maybe she's a great waitress. I don't fucking know. But she's not very good at being on the show. So it is a different thing. And I'm not saying that we should condone bullying. And if she felt bullied, then of course those feelings are valid and all of that. Let's get that out of the way. But don't just come onto the reunion and start shouting and screaming about, at least have an argument. At least have some example. She didn't have anything. She just started shouting at everybody. Just whined.
Yeah, she just whined about it, and I have no respect for that. Like, if you had a real problem with it, you could have gone to Lisa and changed. And I think you're right. Just because you are cute and you can wait tables does not mean you're going to be good on a reality show. Some people are not good. I would be terrible at a reality show. I'm not that interesting. I'm way better at podcasting than I am TV. But and maybe that's debatable. But I just think, like, just because you think you should be doesn't mean you're going to be good at it. And that's fine. But don't whine and make it everybody else's problem that it wasn't an enjoyable experience. Just, I don't know.
I agree. I think let's push the mute button on Charlie.
Yeah,
we don't need to talk about her again. Let's dive into, though, the Jax Sandoval breakup.
This is a dark one, man.
It is.
And I think a big problem with Jax is that he doesn't watch the show. Because we talk a lot about people who watch the show and really like, oh shit, I do that. Like, I need to do some self-realization and fix some things about me. Jax knows he needs to fix some shit, but I don't think he understands the extent, because he comes onto these reunions and acts fucking blown away by the irritation that people have. And it's just like, because this is the same shit. It's the same shit every single season. The same things that you needed to work on in season 1, you still need to work on in season 8. Watch the show. If you don't know, watch the show. It will show you what you need to work on.
He has a gift. He has a privilege of being able to look back over this stuff from a third-party perspective, essentially, with hindsight, and see how everybody felt and see how everybody reacted. Nobody else gets that. We don't get that. We just have to do the fucking work ourselves and, like, empathize and shit, which, we know Jax isn't great at. He doesn't even have to empathize. He actually has like a whole blueprint of how everything went. He can be taught, and he's not making the most of it. And so I fully get it when everybody's like, season 8, he's a work in progress. You're always a fucking work in progress. At some point, you own your shit, you deal with it, you do better, and you move the fuck on.
Absolutely. And I think all of these people deeply care about him.
Yeah.
Sandoval is his real friend and really cares about him, but it's almost like the Stassi and Kristen thing. Sometimes it's just enough, and a line has to be drawn, and if they don't get it anymore, it's not your problem anymore. And I feel like that's where everybody is with Jax. I mean, poor Brittany is going to be there. She's made a vow to be with him. And I think Brittany can see some good in him, but I think she needs to be a little bit more honest as well and recognize that, like, the dude that he was when he proposed, like the guy that she, was really into, the nice guy who was like there for everybody, is who he can be, but he really needs to do a lot of work to get there.
Well, and I feel a little bit like she needs to do a bit of a Raquel on him. I feel like she is enabling it. She says, well, when we're on our own, I shout and scream at him and I do all of that. Like, that's fine. But actually, I think she needs to be fairly consistent in her condemnation of his terrible behavior, because I get that she wants to do this like Southern good wife thing where she's always on his side and she always backs him up. And I appreciate that. But at the same time, there comes a point where somebody is behaving really badly and hurting everybody around. Just like Kristen, he's the common denominator. And at some point, it's only going to take the person closest to him to really go, you know what, you need to fucking sort this shit out.
And in my opinion, that's what the Southern wives do. They back you up in public. They're your wife. I will always stand by your side. But in private, they're like, you need to get your fucking shit together because this is not going to fly. I'm not going to put up with it. I'm not putting it up with my kids. Like, this is the shit you need to do. And we can go together. Like, because obviously there has to be issues in their relationship as well.
Yeah,
like, someone cannot act that badly and not have it carry over in the relationship. And we see Brittany see that in the season. Like, you take a lot of shit out on me that's not my fault, and it's not okay. So part of me wonders if, like, she can get him to go to therapy that way. Like, we need to work on this stuff in our relationship. And obviously that's going to bring up a whole lot of stuff that he needs to work on.
I just very much got the impression that she's not particularly happy right now. Like, I feel like she is very much on her own because, of course, everybody's abandoned Jax. And because she supports him to their face, they've kind of abandoned her too, and they've just left them to go and be a couple. And actually, I think Brittany needs a ton more support from her friends than she's getting. But it's very difficult for her to ask because she, doing so kind of admits defeat to a certain extent, and she doesn't want to do that. So I feel like she's in a rock and a hard place. I want her friends to recognize that Brittany needs more support. And I just don't think Jax as well. There seems to be... He's always been like an arrogant, selfish twat. We know that. But there does seem to be something off about him.
And how could there not be? I mean, realistically, looking at all the trauma that he's just had in a very short period of time with his father dying, his mother essentially like not having a relationship with either of his parents, a wedding, this fallout with his friends, like he's got a lot of traumatic events. There's no way there's nothing wrong with him.
Yeah,
there's no way. And I totally get like Brittany's kind of hardship on like not wanting to, admit the guilt, right? Or like if she goes to her friends, then she's betraying Jax. But I will say we saw her step out without him a lot more this season than we have on any other previous season. And she is doing things on her own. And I think that's really healthy. And I think you're absolutely right. She needs more support from the girls. She needs to go and do things with the girls and, really give him that time that he needs to focus on himself but not be dragged down with him. Like his problems are not her problems.
That's kind of how I feel it is. I think Brittany's a fixer. I think she just wants to be kind and make everybody feel good and happy. And she's the typical, you just want to say to her, his happiness is not your responsibility. It just isn't. And you might be married to him, but nobody else's happiness is your responsibility. I mean, don't go out of your way to be a cunt to people, but like you can't, if somebody's miserable, you can't make it better. And I think that's the point that she needs to get to. She can't work secretly behind the scenes to try and fix Jax and then come out and say everything's fine, because she's not getting the help that she needs. And I do worry about her. And, you know, Jax is a pain in the ass, but he doesn't seem well to me. And
No.
he feels jittery. He feels like he's not holding thoughts together. You know, it's kind of not.
Yeah.
It feels a bit manic. And it worried me. And I feel for Sandoval. He's so emotional, and I genuinely believe he loves Jax.
Absolutely.
He loves him like a brother. There's no doubt. And I think that the anger and the pain we see in Tom is real. I mean, he's the most patronizing person on the planet. Like, the most patronizing person.
Him and Ariana, like, there was a point where I was like, all right, you need to stop.
Yeah.
Like
when at one point he said something like, I just want you to better yourself. It's like, dude, come on. Like,
yeah.
It's not helpful. You're smug. You're entitled. You are patronizing. But I do think everything comes from a place of love with Sandoval. And I just think I just don't think he can, it just doesn't understand it. It just doesn't compute for him. And I felt for him when they're talking about his best man at Jax's wedding, because he fucking nailed it. And he did that with love, like real love. He wanted to make this day perfect. And he felt like and I think he did 150% because of the fight that had happened before. And I think he wanted to make it good. And then for Jax to just turn around and say, it's just a really good actor. I mean, Jax knows that's not fucking true.
No, and I mean, Jax can be really cutting. Like, that would hurt. Like, if your supposed best friend of like 20 years says this to you, that like your intentions are not honorable and you're doing it all for the show, like, fuck you, man. Like, that's not cool. It's not cool to say. I understand like Ariana's frustration with the whole situation. I don't think she necessarily helps matters.
No. I think Tom and Ariana are perfect for each other.
Yeah.
But they're not a very likable couple.
No, they're not. I mean, Tom and Katie have their issues, but ultimately they're likable. Like, you know, they care about each other. They care about other people occasionally. But sometimes I just feel like Ariana and Tom would rather just be the two of them.
Forever and ever, amen. Like, I agree. I think that's exactly it. There's, you know, they have a touch of we're better than everybody. We're more enlightened than everybody else. And that's never attractive. Nobody's ever warming to that. And obviously Ariana's struggling with mental health as well. So there's a lot going on. But I do think that Tom Sandoval has a tendency to come across as kind of self-righteous and smug. And I think that's what wound Jax up with the preacher. You know, I understood that. I think Tom handled it badly. But I don't know if these guys will come back from it.
I don't know. I mean, well, we don't know if Jax will be the next one to be fired from the show anyways because of past racist behaviors. So we'll see. I mean, again, it'll be a whole different show next season. But you know who we will see is James Kennedy, because he is kicking ass at sobriety.
I literally just got goosebumps. At the beginning of this season, I honestly couldn't stand James.
Yeah.
I couldn't stand to look at him. By the end of this season, like, I want to hug him, take him into my house, make sure he's clothed and fed and looked after. I want to give him hot meals. I just want him to be okay. He is so sweet sober.
100%. He is a completely different person. Lisa's given him back. See you next Tuesday. So like everything is going right in the world with him. I love sober James. I love his dealings with Raquel when he's sober. I think he's super respectful. I still feel the jury's out on whether or not like they will end up together, but I give her a lot of credit for standing up to him and really drawing a hard line with him and being like, if you drink, we're done.
I have to say, I didn't think much of Raquel at all, but I actually think that this is going to work. I think she's exactly what he needs. She's got more chutzpah than we give her credit for. And I think that, weirdly, I think that's going to work.
Interesting. We'll see.
I think that might be our wedding. Heard it here first.
Yeah, we'll see about that. I mean, the only people that James is still not nice to is Kristen, because when he was talking, like when he got really emotional about his sobriety and what it's taken to get him there, she was just being an asshole.
Oh, she couldn't even throw him a fucking bone. She couldn't throw him the tiniest of little scrappy bones. She couldn't do anything. She couldn't dig deep to just say one nice thing.
No.
I agree. I think you can be sober and you can work the steps, but there's no cure for cunt, and Kristen's just a cunt, and there's nothing you can do about that.
And he doesn't need to be nice to her about that because she is hideous. I do like how James and Lala have kind of come together in this sobriety as well and repaired their relationship. And James repairing the relationship with Randall, I think, went a long way, even though he did do that 50 Cent meme and kind of fuck it up a little bit.
But owned it, apologized, got straight on it. Randall is rapidly becoming the sexiest man on TV for me. Like I don't care what anybody says. I fully see it with Randall. Fully see it.
Absolutely. I totally get why Lala and Randall are together. Like
he's such a ass.
And he's balanced. Like he's not immature. He's not stupid. Like he's a smart, funny, empathetic, rich dude. And you know, I kind of like him more for his reticence to come on the show and
and
not
then
really want to be entangled with it.
For her, I agree. He's ace. And I think I thought it was really interesting chat that we had with Lala this episode, this reunion as well, because I love Lala, always have, always will. And I think we definitely saw nasty sides to her. We definitely saw her be really cutting and bullying when she's talking to Raquel at Katie's wine party. That wasn't cool. It felt uncomfortable at the time to watch. And I think Lala made a really interesting point that warrants kind of a bit of a discussion, because I loved when she said, look, I think part of me thought that getting sober was the thing that was going to change me. And of course it has. It's made huge. But that's not all it takes.
Yeah.
You still have to you can't just stop drinking. You still have to do the work. You have to do the steps. You have to work the program every day. You have to do whatever it is to make you a better person. And just getting sober is a great fucking start. But actually, there's more to it. And I think that it's a really interesting journey that we're seeing her on, and she owned it and apologized as well. But there were definitely some pretty uncomfortable moments with her this season.
Well, and I think it's interesting because I feel like she maybe felt like alcohol was making her the asshole, when actually she was just being an asshole. It had nothing to do with the alcohol. And now that the alcohol's not there, she's now kind of having to really examine when she's being an asshole and what she needs to do instead. And one thing I really like about her is that she does take ownership of being an asshole. Like, she apologized to everybody for the things that she said. They weren't coming from a good place. I mean, you know, we can't forget that she also lost her father too. Like, there have been a lot of parents passing for this group. And I think you're right about her being sober is kind of the first step, but now she's going to have to deal with, all those feelings that she's been numbing for ages. And I think it's an interesting kind of pairing that we see kind of James newly sober and dealing with the newly stuff. And we see Lala's got 18 months. So she's a bit more advanced. And now she's kind of dealing with, I'm done with drinking, but now I actually have to deal with those behaviors that aren't attributed to drinking. And I think it's an interesting, it's interesting to watch and see her navigate.
And I think you see that a lot with kind of addicts and people in recovery. The one thing that they generally, if they're successful in recovery, is they recognize the importance and the need to own their shit. And I think we see that with James. It's the first thing. Like, he says sorry, he owns what he's done. Lala's doing the same. We're not seeing that with Jax. We're not seeing it with Kristen, because they're not on that journey. They haven't figured that shit out. And it's really interesting to see how we react to people on TV when they do take ownership, and how we react to people on TV when they don't, because it's very clear cut. Like, Jax and Kristen are not popular characters.
No.
Lala and James are, even though they've all done shit stuff.
Absolutely.
It's really, really interesting. And because Jax isn't watching it, he doesn't fucking see it. But Kristen's watching it, she's seeing it, and she still doesn't get it.
Yeah, she just doesn't care.
She doesn't give a shit.
No.
And then we've also got the Witches of WeHo.
Yeah, I mean, I think this triad of relationship is over, and probably for the things that we've already talked about, like the lack of growth, the lack of ownership over one's behavior, the lack of change in one's behavior. Like, I think that friendship is just done. And on the one hand, I'd say that's sad, but on the other hand, I don't think it's sad when people end relationships based on boundaries that they have to put in place for themselves.
Yeah, you end bad relationships for good reasons, and I think that's what's happened here. You know, Stacy and Katie had to put boundaries in. I mean, I imagine that Stacy and Kristen are probably talking again right now. They're probably the only friends each other's got right now at the moment. But
yeah,
that's dark. But, you know, I think Katie, this was the one time we heard Katie speak on the reunion. I thought she spoke really eloquently. She didn't get mad. I felt like there was a real sadness there at the loss of the friendship with Kristen. And I think we had a little bit of accountability from Kristen. I can't quite remember because obviously, I mean, it never, ever happened. But there was definitely a point where Kristen sort of said, yeah, I understand why they got frustrated.
Right.
Watching it back, I understand, but still
and
not
she
enough
misses
to
them.
kind of,
but
and she misses them, but that's not reason enough. Like, you have to want to go back because you know you're fucked up and you want to make it right, not just because you want your mates back.
Absolutely.
Because you're a bit lonely.
Well, and I think Lisa sums all of that up is this: they all need to make a fucking effort. Like, if you miss them and you want them back in your life, then you need to make an effort to change. You can't just sit there and do the same old shit all the time and expect people to come back. Like, that's not how it works. And
Kristen keeps doing it. Like, she keeps fucking them over one way or the other. She's exhausting. It's all take with Kristen. And I think everybody's just naturally got to a point where they can't be. Yeah. They've got more important fucking shit to do.
And I think, you know, if Jax is on next season, which I doubt he will be, he needs to look at Kristen as kind of like a cautionary tale. Like, she pushed him away, and she pushed all her friends away again and again and again, treating them like shit, you know, wallowing in her own self unawareness. If you don't make a change, Jax, you're going to be the Kristen.
He is, and the sad thing is, at least Kristen was on her own. She's not dragging anybody down. But Jax will have to take Brittany down, because if Jax is fired from the show, I can't see how Brittany is going to be able to continue. I mean, I feel bad for Brittany.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that she can continue as well. Like, you know, it would still be, Jax is still benefiting from the show at that point. And I think,
I don't think she'd do it without him anyways. I think she's very kind of loyal that way. Like, and I mean, not like a loyal that is a positive loyalty. I don't know what the other word for it. Like blind faith.
Yeah, exactly.
Like blind loyalty.
Like, I kind of worry about these guys as well. They've all bought these expensive houses. Like, beyond Vanderpump Rules, they're actually just fucking waiters and waitresses.
Yeah, I mean, Stassi had a lot of other stuff going on, but that's all been dropped. Her book has been dropped. Podcast
drop has been booked. There's no has been dropped. There's no marketing. There's no sales. The publishers dropped her, so that book was launching like now.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what Bo does, but hopefully
he does casting. I mean, I think Bo's okay. Like, Bo does TV casting, so this is not his like main source of income or who.
Well, maybe he can get Stassi a new job.
Maybe, but I mean, you know, it'd be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with them, and happens just to everybody in general. Like, I hope this is just a big wake up call and everybody really takes this seriously and takes time to work on themselves, because what Stassi and Kristen did is really, really despicable. Like, I mean, it wasn't just really racist tweet from 10 years ago. Like, it was a dark, directed thing at, you know, Faith, who was kind of the last person of color that I remember being on the show. It's dark.
It's really bad. And there's no doubt in my mind that Bravo have done the right thing. They absolutely deserve to get fired. And, you know, I'm not, when I say, you know, I hope, I'm not worried about them. They have to figure that shit out. But I think, like you say, it has to be a wake-up call, because this isn't real fucking life. And just like that, you're dropped. and all of a sudden you've got to stand on your own 2 feet without Bravo behind you.
Right. And actually have to work a little bit harder because of the reason that, that you left. Like, yeah.
I have no doubt that Stassi will come back. I have no doubt that she will do the work. She'll graft. Yeah. She'll make it right. I have no doubt, because as much as I believe that she deserves the consequences for her actions, I also believe that she deserves a chance to learn, grow, and do better. I don't think we could write her off completely.
No, because we have seen her change. We have seen her grow personally just through these seasons. Kristen, we haven't. I'm not losing any sleep over Kristen, but I think Stassi will do the work and change. And I believe deep down she realizes the bullshit that she did.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And she's a grafter, and I believe that she'll do the right thing and figure some shit out. But Jax and Kristen, I'm just starting to wonder, they're the eldest of the cast. I just don't know how much they want to change.
Yeah. I mean, from what we've seen, none.
No.
So
even Andy's like, dude, like, this is my job. Like, I'm not getting at you. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Very
also, weird.
Just watch the fucking show. It should be in their contract that they have to watch the show.
I would agree. Like, how can you talk intelligently at the reunion or anything about what's been going on if you have no idea? Like, yeah, you know your life, you're part of it, but you don't know the reactions of your rage texting or anything like that.
I was genuinely shook when I found out he didn't watch the show. I mean, I just thought, how can you have all those hours of footage out across the whole world?
Yeah.
Of you, and not have any inclination to see how that plays out.
Yeah, or curiosity, like, how did I come off then? Like, or how can I be better? It's just, it's not in his lexicon. It's not in his brain that he needs to be better or change. And until that happens, like, that's it.
Yeah. Anyway, if we missed anything.
I think we're pretty good. I mean, we could touch on, really quickly, the whole Lisa and Danica thing. I think these people need to be very careful about what they say about their boss on after shows. Because while I think Lisa took something different than what Danica actually said, Danica just said that they fantasize about each other and it's a little bit weird. Fair enough. But I think, yeah, I also think Danica does need to keep in mind that, like, Lisa does have kids and a husband of, many years. Personally, I don't think Ken was that bothered by it. Like, I don't think this was going to ruin their relationship. I think Lisa took it a bit too far, but I think, it's always
I think it's
good
a boundary
to be aware.
Thing as well, right? She's your boss, so you just don't talk about her.
Just don't make sex jokes.
Just don't make sex jokes about your boss on television shows. I mean, come on, Danica, you know better than that. But anyway, we'll see. I don't think she's going to be back. I just don't think Lisa likes her. I don't think she's warmed to her. I think she's given her a chance to grow. It's not really happened. I think Lisa won't lose a wink of sleep over firing Danica.
No. So that brings us to the end of Vanderpump Rules reunion. Like we've said numerous times, it'll be a very different show next season. I think we're here for it, and hope you enjoyed the reunion recap.
Yes, I hope you did too. Remember, rate and review. If you can, go to iTunes and hit that rate and review button. It really means the world to us, and it's the one thing that helps us get out there. The other thing, of course, is that we're still on Patreon. So if you are enjoying the content and you come back to us every week for your weekly dose of reality TV news and analytics, then, we like to dissect some shit on this show.
We do.
Then we'd be very grateful if you can spare a little bit of cash right now. But if you can't, then rating and reviewing us is free. So please go.
That's right. Yep. Do it.
And so have a great week. Enjoy your TV. And remember,
smart people watch reality TV too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Please subscribe, rate, and review TV My Husband Hates wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at TV My Husband Hates and join the Facebook group to keep the conversation going when the podcast ends. If Twitter's your thing, you'll find us at TV Husbands Hate. Theme music and production for TV My Husband Hates by Jimmy Sims.